Hi, I'm Joe Fielder. I'm the site director for GameSpot. I'm here today to talk to you about Way of the Samurai for the PlayStation 2. It's a game from Acquire, the developers responsible for the Tenchu series. I was a really big fan of the Tenchu series, so I've been really excited to get my hands on the game and try it out. But I have to admit I've been a little bit concerned about it because my favorite aspect of the Tenchu series was the stealth, sneaking around as a ninja, and the idea of playing as a samurai. It's a little more straightforward, so I've been a little bit concerned that Way of the Samurai might come off more like Tenchu without the stealth aspect. I'm glad to report that that's really not quite the case. The game is set in a period of Japanese history where the role of the samurai has kind of started to fade. But you play as a samurai, a ronin, who's wandered into this mountain town and wandered in the middle of this conflict between two rival clans. And they're feuding over a local iron foundry, and a lot of the villagers nearby are kind of caught between as well. Decisions that you make in the game will affect the game's outcome, will affect a lot of different things throughout the game. There are multiple branching paths. For instance, as you first start up the game, you'll walk across a bridge, and one of the local clan members will pick up a local girl, and cart off with her. You can intercept him, you can start a fight with him to free the girl, or you can let him walk on by and he'll walk underneath the bridge below and get in a fight with one of the girl's friends. You can participate in that, you can ignore it, you can ignore the bridge altogether. There's, like I said, a lot of different branching paths. When you approach a character in the game, you have several options. You can decide to talk with them. If you talk with them, you have a variety of different things that you can say. You can draw your sword and attack them. You can just walk on by. Or if you want to just wander through the game with your sword drawn, that's a really good way of attracting a lot of attention as well. There are, of course, a lot of different outcomes. You can even, walk away from, certain battles. There's certain events you get drawn into that you can beg off of, though, as I mentioned before, the results might not be totally favorable. But it's fun to try. It's fun to check those things out. There are a lot of different outcomes that can happen throughout the 2-day span of the game. As in Square's Bushido Blade, the game's environments are pretty expansive. Once you reach their borders, they'll load new areas within, and there are a lot of different places to explore within these environments. There are towns to look at, there's train tracks, there's fields, and within these areas you'll find different inhabitants of the towns. You'll find health recharging items such as vegetables and mushrooms. There are times when you can even run away from a fight to go pick up a mushroom or a vegetable to recharge your health, but it's often takes some time to draw your sword or sheath your sword, so you want to make sure that your enemies are pretty far away when that happens. Way of the Samurai is a really tough game right from the start. You'll get pretty used to seeing the main select screen until you hone your skills pretty well. People who remember the really tough boss fights from Tenchu 2 will have an idea of how important it is to hone your skills in Way of the Samurai. And there are even more moves and styles to learn than in Tenchu, which is more important because you don't have the throwing stars and a lot of the special items that you had to kind of cheat your way through the game. It's a very tough game, and you're going to have to learn your skills to beat it. The game's controls are easy to learn but difficult to master. There are two slash attacks. There's a hard slash that takes a little bit longer to come off with. There's also a quick attack, and there are a lot of different special moves that you'll find through combinations of these moves, jumps, directional buttons, and the rest. There's also a block that if you lean towards your enemy or back from your enemy while you're blocking, you might be able to throw them off balance for a few seconds and get a few hits in. There's also an attack you can do from a block, which is a kick. You can also do that while if you're knocked to the ground, and it'll give you a few seconds to get back up, or it might give you an opportunity to get an extra attack in. The game's graphics are its real weak point. It does not look nearly as nice as a lot of the current PlayStation 2 games. In fact, it almost looks like it was originally intended for the PlayStation 1. There are decent models, there's a nice color palette to it, but it's got a problem with pop-up where sometimes characters in story sequences or just walking down a path will disappear and pop back in. There's also some questionable collision detection, and you lose the ability to use your camera when you get into fights, which also can be kind of frustrating. Now, Acquire is pretty well known for making tweaks to games between when they come out in Japan, when they come out in the U.S. So there's still hope that some of these things can get fixed between now and the game's summer release. And at the very least, I think that the multiple branching paths and some of the customization that you find in the game is going to keep it from living in the shadow of the Tenchu series when it hits here finally.